Greetings and konnichiwa, and welcome back to the Onyx Tavern Vlog series on Resha Sentai ToQger. I'm your host, Rick the Barkeep, and today we are talking about Station 24, Past the Junction. Wow, it did not take this show long to get off track, excuse the pun, from the overall plot and what we've been dealing with for the last 2 episodes. And what do I mean by that? So, basically, this episode begins with the ToQger trying to find their town. And I'm going to get into all these little details about stuff that just doesn't make sense in this episode. But through a series of events, they realize that the way to locate their town now is to liberate towns that have already been taken over by the Shadow Line. And if they do that, then it will eventually lead them to their hometown. So when the series began, the plot of the show was to find their hometown and understand their identities. Then it quickly became prevent the Shadow Line from taking over other towns, and now the plot is to revive towns who've already been taken over by the Shadow Line. So where we left off in the 23rd station was to find our town directly, since we know the name of it. It is now, well, we will eventually find our town, but we have to do this first. It's like a side quest in a video game. It's like you want to get to your main goal, but you have to do all this little crap first before you can actually get to your town. Now, of course, keep in mind, I don't begrudge the ToQger for actually wanting to help other towns and save them, but it seems to me that you would want to get your town first, get your peace of mind, and maybe once that is done, then you can continue your quest. But no, they're going to take the long way to get there, which means we are extending this series out even further. And again, I said in the last episodes, let's see how long it'll take us to kind of derail this whole thing. Again, sorry for the train puns, but that's how it is. Where finding your hometown is going to be much harder than it should be. And again, it was the very next episode in which this happened. Now, we don't really learn too much more other than the nature of how the Shadow Towns work. And that's about it. I mean, okay, there is a great moment with the villains, and I want to talk about that first, where basically Madame now swears her allegiance back to the Emperor and promises to never betray him again, after she attempted to stab him. Yeah, that's kind of odd. And this actually reminded me of another show where a Japanese woman was trying to stab a dictator, basically. That is Star Trek Enterprise in a Mirror Darkly, where Mirror Hoshisato, attempted the same thing on Archer. And what happened at the end of that episode? Hoshi became Empress. So I hope that Zet is a little bit smarter than Mirror Archer in this regard, because it's almost mirrored the same thing, except Zet didn't make out with her. Thankfully, I guess. So yeah, this very little with the villain plot in there, but we still don't know what happened to Schwartz. That hasn't been brought up. And of course, Madame's allegiance, let's see where that takes us. And I do like that Baron Nero did throw back the line. In the 23rd episode, she basically said to Nero, when Greta had taken over, it was basically like, you have a choice between submission and death. Choose wisely, basically, was what she said. Now, Baron Nero says the same thing to her, so it's kind of like, oh, snap, I guess. So I like that. It was pretty cool. But let's talk about the logic in this episode. And I know there are a lot of you that hate for me to nitpick, but this is something that should have been done as the script was being written and evaluated before it even got to filming. So, I'm going to talk about it, okay? And if you don't like to hear me nitpick, then you can move on to the next vlog, but there are a lot of issues here that this brings up. First of all, let's talk about the ToQger finding their town. As we've already established, they are using magazines and maps to locate their town. They're not using the internet. Why not? We even have a ranger that has a smartphone as his morpher. Why aren't they using that to try and find their town? But that's the least of our problems here. So basically, they're looking on the maps to find their town. Now, the way that Ticket and Conductor are explained is that once the town is consumed, it is gone. It's no longer there. So here would be the thing. We know that ToQger have a lot of current maps. I would assume that these are current maps. And let's say that the time progression has continued as it normally should. So let's say that the ToQger in their flashbacks of children are about 7, 8 years old. And let's say it's been at least 10 years since their town had been taken over and their aging has progressed naturally. Let's assume that that is the case here. Then any current map that they have of their town, of looking for their town, would be useless. Because if the shadow line has taken over the town, then that town has disappeared, as indicated by the end of the episode. And we'll talk again about how shadow towns work. But basically, once it's engulfed by shadow and darkness, the town disappears. So if they have a current map as it is, that map is no good. Because if 10 years have passed, and that's an estimate, then they need a map from 10 years ago or longer to find where that is, to find where their town is. A current map will not have a town that no longer exists on it. This is something the Conductor and Ticket should have told them. But no, they proceed to look through the maps, can't find a town despite the fact that the maps are all recent. So, what should they do? Well, they should probably go to a library and look this up. If you can't find any of the current information, and you choose not to use the internet, then go to one of the various libraries in the cities and look up that town in the archives somewhere. Because if the town doesn't exist now, I'm sure there's a record of it somewhere. Plus, a town that has completely disappeared, I'm sure in the location of where the town was, we might have a memorial, some sort of tour thing that goes on saying this is a town that mysteriously disappeared. Heck, somebody could have done a documentary on it. This town just completely disappeared 10 years ago and we have no idea what happened to it. There are any number of things that could have happened at this point, but the episode doesn't even bring up the fact that they could research their town because the current maps don't have it. So why isn't that happening? Why aren't they saying, oh, it's not the current maps, but you know what? Maybe it's in the library somewhere. Maybe it's on the internet somewhere. Let's go research it to go ahead and find it. Now, this point actually becomes moot for the plot of the episode because Akira, being a member of the Shadow Line, knows how to get to the towns through the Shadow Rails. Which, by the way, he brings up the point that he can use the Drill Resha, which was once part of the Shadow Line, to actually find these places, which is great. And we actually go to a Shadow Town for the first time, and we learn some rules about it. We know that there is an overseer there. We do know that the town's not actually dark. It looks like it works on normal like sun cycles and all that, but the people in the town are completely frozen in time. And that when you destroy the Overseer, the town is no longer shrouded in darkness and reveals itself. So many questions. Ugh. Alright, let's start with the fact that it is frozen in time. If a town is frozen in time, are you telling me that nobody else is trying to interact with these people? It seems that the town disappears visually. You can't see it because we see at the end of the episode where the Rook Shadow is destroyed, the town is restored. And this town that they were going to, which is not their own but a different one, is about the size of Tokyo, it seems. It's a pretty damn big city that they liberate in this episode. But everybody's frozen in whatever they were doing when the Shadow Line took over. So what about these people? They've been there for how long? Do they stop aging within this period? Are they aware of the passage of time? And if people are being frozen in time, then what happened to other people that knew these people? I mean, this is basically the logic of what they're saying. So my hometown is Louisville, Kentucky. I'm a Kentucky boy and all that. If my city was taken over by the Shadow Line, I would know it. Because my mother, father, brother, and nephew, they all live within that city, as well as all my friends from high school and all that. So if I try to call my mother and I can't get a hold of her, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go there and find them. Because I know where that city is. It's right on the Ohio River, and it's right between Indianapolis, Nashville, Cincy, and St. Louis, 4 major cities. So I can go there, and if the town's completely disappeared, then don't you think somebody would do an investigation into that? Like the government would come in and say, oh, the entire city of Louisville, Kentucky has disappeared along with all the people. Let's do something about it. And people will be on the news about it. People will be writing on the internet about it. Books, documentaries, for however long, people will be researching into this to figure out why the hell this town disappeared. And keep in mind, Louisville, Kentucky is the 16th largest city by population in the United States, or at least somewhere in the top 20, okay? This city in ToQger disappeared, again, it looks like about the size of Tokyo. And you're telling me this entire major metropolitan city has disappeared, and nothing is happening. The same with the ToQger city. It disappeared, and yet you can't find it on a map? Well, if you can't find it on a map, then that tells me that, again, nobody can find it, but there's an old map of when it did exist. But how does an entire town disappear with people and is frozen and nobody's investigating into it? I mean, they just kind of snap out of it like, oh, we're going to continue our day however it was. How long was this town frozen? Were they there for like a day, a month, a year, 20? How long were they actually frozen in time? And the fact that they have now unfroze, what kind of world are they coming to now? I mean, if they've been there, say, 20 years, oh my goodness, think of how the world has changed in 20 years, even in Japan. I mean, come on. That doesn't make any sense. So, the people are frozen in time, and when you destroy the shadow, overseer, the town returns. Let's bring this point up. Say the town disappeared, and people were occupying the space in which the town was at, where skyscraper was. What happens to the person standing in that place who can't see the town? Are they phased through the material? Are they put on top of a skyscraper? Are they moved? What is the mass distribution of the town once it returns? And say that town has been gone for 20 years. What if something else was built over it? Because, oh, the town disappeared and destroyed, but you know what? Let's go in and build something new. What happens to what was already there at that time? Trust me, Japan's a small enough country that there is no empty space for stuff like that. Okay? They would do something with that. The only way that this can make sense, and if this is how they wrote it, I am going to be super pissed off, is if the shadow line takes over the town, it erases all record and all memory of everybody of knowing this town. That is the only thing I can think of that would explain this. And if that is what's going on, that is incredibly lazy and incredibly short-sighted. Because basically what the writers are doing is they're trying to have their little town disappear thing, but they're not understanding what the consequences of that actually is. The consequences of a town completely disappearing from any city or from any country in the world, especially Japan, is something that would be investigated, researched, and all that. But no, they want to have this thing disappear and nobody question it to make it harder for ToQger to find their town. So even if they went to the library, by this line of logic, even if they went to the library, they would not be able to find their town in the records. A town that might have existed for hundreds of years, but is now just gone. There's no history record book of it. And then the people who were in the town, again, say it was my hometown, my mother disappeared. Am I supposed to forget who my mother is? Who my parents are? Is that what the shadow line does? Erases the memories of the people who are attached to it? Because that doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. It just boggles my mind that this is what they're doing. I mean, okay, I get that the show is for a younger audience. I get that, all right? So please don't tell me that. But anybody that has two brain cells to rub together will realize this doesn't make sense. You can't have a town disappear and have nobody question it or think about it. It just really bothers me that this is what they've decided to do. Hopefully they will explain this. Hopefully it's a better explanation than I've given. Maybe it's something that's brilliant and clever that I haven't thought of, and all the pieces fall into place at the end of the series. I somehow doubt that, but we have to see. We just have to kind of wait and see what's going to happen here. But I'm very frustrated at this episode because it's nice to learn new things about what's happening, but if those things are stupid, then it's not worth learning, I think. Anyway, so that's my spiel about it. I'm really pissed off about that, and I just hope it gets better from this point. Okay? So there we are. That was Station 24. Hopefully Station 25 will be better, and I will be back later to talk to you guys about that. Otherwise, have a good evening, and the tavern is now closed.